This is why we have so many students not getting into medical school every year. Ask Dr. Gray Pre-Med Q&A, sponsored by Blueprint MCAT. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. What can I help you with?
So I come from an Asian American background. I'm Indian. And so I know that you usually say that there's no such thing as, overrepresented majority in medicine. But, all these pre-med forums have sort of scared me a little bit.
Yep.
And my GPA just doesn't feel like it is where it needs to be, just based on my background and applying this upcoming cycle. So I kind of just wanted to know if I'm ready to apply. Do I need to do a post-bac? Where am I at?
Okay. So what's your GPA?
So right now, my cumulative GPA is a 3.65.
Okay.
And that's overall. And then my BCPM is a 3.44.
Okay. And what do the trends look like in that?
Yeah. So I started off at like a 3.3, sort of sophomore and junior year, 3.6, and then senior year, where I currently am right now, I've gotten up to a 3.96, so very close to a 4.0. And I transferred colleges in between that, so I had a little bit of difficulty, which is why I didn't have sort of that steady upward trend. It sort of stayed constant sophomore and junior year, but that's where I'm sort of at the moment.
Okay. And what about your science trend? What does that look like?
Yeah, so freshman year was a 3.2, sophomore was a 3.4, junior year took a little bit of a dip, 3.1, and then this upcoming year is a 3.9.
Okay, so solid finish. The question's going to be, for the admissions committee, who are you? Which one of these 4 years are you? Are you the 3.9 student? Are you the 3.1 student? Are you the 3.4 student? And because you don't have a consistent upward trend, they're not really going to have an answer to that, right? Mm-hmm. You haven't proven that you're a consistent 3.9 student, that you're a consistent 3.1 student. You're kind of all over the place. And so you're the perfect student potentially that would benefit most likely from doing some more coursework and proving that you are the 3.9 student. Like, this is who I am. Or the 3.8 student. Whatever it is that you end up at, you most likely would benefit from having some more coursework to show that consistent upward trend. You don't have that yet.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And so
and that's factored into, that has nothing to do with ethnicity, nationality, whatever, right? I don't know. I don't even know why you let off with being an ORM student, in your words, right? ORM, as a lot of people are going to read in my new book, the application process book, I have some definitions in there. URM being underrepresented in medicine or underrepresented minority, and then ORM, which is this kind of fake made up pre-med thing of like, oh, I'm white, and so I'm disadvantaged, right? And it's just not a thing. And so I don't even know why you let off with that, but your GPA, regardless of anything else, has shown that you're not consistent enough for a medical school to know who you are. Mm-hmm. Right? If your overall science GPA was a 3.7, it wouldn't be a concern, right? A 3.7 is solid. There's no question mark there. Being a 3.4, if it was a 2.5, a 3.0, 4.0, 4.0, then potentially there's like, look, you've had 2 years at a 4.0, you're fine with an upward trend, but you're not there yet.
Yeah. So I guess my next question is, so where, if at all, does the MCAT factor into showing medical schools that I am capable of medical school level coursework and that sort of difficulty?
It doesn't. The MCAT shows that you can do well on the MCAT. And the AAMC has some data out there that tries to correlate the MCAT with USMLE, and there's some other people out there, very weak correlation to USMLE performance. USMLE is going pass fail, so big picture, it doesn't matter anymore that there's some correlation between MCAT and USMLE. But don't try to use the MCAT as a counter to having a lower GPA. It doesn't work that way. Right? There's no sliding scale that says if you have a 3.4, you must have a 515, and we don't care about your 3.4 anymore. It just doesn't work that way. When you think about how medical schools oftentimes use rubrics, they'll correlate a 3.0 to a 3.2 GPA with 5 points to the rubric, and then a 3.2 to a 3.5 with 7 points to the rubric, whatever it is, right? And then they do the same thing with the MCAT. They'll say, hey, 500 to a 505 is 5 points, 505 to 510 is 10 points, 515, whatever, right? And so at the end of the day, the answer is a higher MCAT score always helps, and a higher GPA always helps. There's no such thing as a higher MCAT score helps a lower GPA. It's just a higher MCAT score helps, period.
Okay. So I guess with the, you mentioned that I would be a good candidate for, some extra coursework. I was like set on applying this cycle. So given the information you've provided, do you think it's still wise to apply and perhaps take some coursework in the meantime? And then, I know not all schools allow updates, but to potentially send updates to schools and let them know where I'm at academically?
Yeah, it's really a personal decision for you. If you choose to apply this cycle, it'll be with your GPA right now. And that's the GPA that you'll have to just assume is going to be the GPA that schools are going to make their decisions based off of. And are you a student who, number one, can afford applying this cycle knowing that your GPA hasn't really proven anything yet, with potentially the need to continue to take classes throughout the application cycle, come to the end of this current application cycle, and let's just assume you don't get in, right? Let's hope you get in, but let's assume you don't get in. And then you'll need to reapply, right? And you'll have to redo your personal statement, redo your extracurriculars, have some differences in your activity section to show growth. Obviously, the cost, the finances to apply again. Or would you rather just take the classes you need, take the time to prepare for the MCAT, all of your essays, all that stuff without rushing? It's two different options. I personally would just wait to apply, then apply with a weaker application, knowing that I'm actively working on improving my application in the middle of an application.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. So, I guess in terms of doing extra coursework, how many hours based on, I don't know if there's sort of like a guideline or if it's person to person of like how many courses, how many credits would be sufficient.
My colleague, Dr. Scott Wright, who's a former director of admissions at UT Southwestern, on our Ask the Dean series that we do on YouTube called at mapped.tv, he mentions 45 credit hours, right? 45 credit hours of a solid upward trend. Now, that doesn't mean 45 credit hours of a post-bac. That just means 45 hours of an upward trend. And so your last year is part of that. How many credit hours is your last year?
I think it's about, I think it should be about, it's usually the standard because I took
24, 26, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's like 24 to 28, I would say.
And so add another year onto that, about the same credit hours, and there's your 45-ish hours of having a solid upward trend.
Got it. Okay. And in terms of like my experiences and things like that, I mean, I have some good clinical hours. I'm just trying to gauge where I'm at,
Mm.
beyond my academics. Because I know you also do say that like stats aren't the whole
Yep.
picture, that it's, your story also matters.
Yep.
So where do you think that factors in for me? Do you like, if I do end up going the path of, applying this cycle and using sort of my story and, the holistic part of my application
Yep.
to really show who I am, beyond my stats and just that sort of thing. Do you think that medical schools will potentially, I wouldn't want to say look past, but I guess understand the story of I transferred from a college that I truly was not happy at, and that sort of reflected in my grades. And I transferred to the new university that I'm now at, and that's sort of where that science GPA took a downtick.
Yep.
And so, if I'm able to explain that, is that something that could create, a more vivid picture of what these numbers are trying to represent?
Potentially, but when I say that your story matters and grades aren't everything, that's always predicated with you still have to show that you're academically capable of doing well in medical school. And so a student could have a 3.2 GPA as a final number, which most students only talk about and discuss and see, but that 3.2 could include 60 hours at a 4.0. And that student has proven academically they can handle medical school. And so you can't explain away a low GPA if you still haven't proven you can handle medical school. And that's where the question is for you, because you're kind of up and down every year. I don't know who you are. Are you the good student or are you the bad student? And the bad student is like 3.1. That's not bad. Although your first year, I think, was a little bit worse. But I still can't grasp onto which student are you. And so there's always going to be some hesitation. Even if you have the best extracurricular activities, even if you have the best MCAT score, there's still going to be a little bit of hesitation around, are you academically ready for medical school? So that's always the juggling act that we have to do when we're kind of deciding and saying, hey, like, you should go ahead and apply. I think you're ready. I think you've proven it. Even though your number is lower than normal or average or whatever, I think medical schools are going to be perfectly fine with that. And yours, even though you have a 3.4-ish science GPA, which in all accounts is relatively good, I mean, it's not outstanding, but there's this weird kind of up and down fluctuation that just gives me a little bit of hesitation. I'm just like, and look, you could apply and schools will see that and go, look, you finished awesome with this strong upward trend at a 3.9. We don't have any issues. That could be enough for some schools.
Good to know. So once again, just want to preface this with, like, I'm not trying to explain away this. I'm just trying to see, like, sort of all the different options that I could potentially have. Because, I don't really know what medical schools think on their ends of things. But that 3.1 did come during the pandemic, which was a tumultuous time for, I think, most, if not all, students. Do you think medical schools are taking into account that spring 2020 semester where there might be some, crazy fluctuations, or they're sort of just looking at the number?
They're just going to look at that number.
Okay.
It's too much brain power to be like, well, this happened and what was your specific situation? And let me go look at your COVID essay and let me go. There's just, it's too much work. And a lot of students, honestly, switch to pass-fail that cycle, or that semester. So a lot of students aren't going to have the worst GPAs that semester because they switched to pass-fail. Either they were forced to or they were given the option, whatever that looks like. And so, again, I think the 3.1 combined with, big picture, combined with the struggle freshman year, some increases sophomore, senior year, they're still like, who are you? I still don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess I didn't see it in that way until like I sort of put the numbers down on paper, that it is kind of all over the place. Um, okay, so yeah, I think I might just have to take some time then and figure out. The thing is like I really want to apply
Of
this
course,
cycle.
everyone wants to
I
apply this cycle. Of course. Why
I
would you want to wait? Oh, it's a whole nother year. It's so long. Yeah,
I know. No,
it's not that long.
it's yeah, no, of course. It's definitely not about like how long it's going to take me to finish the journey or anything like that. I think it's just more so like I've been preparing everything to be ready for, the cycle open today. So, I just opened my application right before talking to you, and
Yeah.
so I think I'm just trying to figure out emotionally and, every other way like how I should go about this.
Yeah. So think about this. There is the fallacy of sunk costs. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I
So,
have.
so the fallacy of sunk costs, for those watching or listening who don't know this, is you are so invested into something that even though you know you should stop doing it, you're like, well, I've already spent X amount of time doing this, or I've already spent X amount of dollars doing something, so I might as well see it through. And a lot of students get trapped in this fallacy of sunk costs. They said, well, I've already opened up my application for this year. I've already written my personal statement. I've already asked for letters of recommendations. What is that going to look like if I then say, oh, actually, never mind, I'm not applying this cycle? What are my parents going to think? What are my friends going to think? And you get down so far down the rabbit hole that there's no turning back in your mind. And then, again, what you're doing is you're putting a efforted application in, knowing that like I probably should take some more classes to have this continued upward trend. All right.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's just a waste. And this is why we have so many students not getting into medical school every year. Right. 41% acceptance rate for AMCAS, because a lot of students apply with a half-complete application, saying, oh, well, it's good enough. I might as well just try, right? I know I should do a master's, but I'm gonna submit an application anyway just to see. So many students do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been following your advice for quite some time now, so I think it would be
Don't stop now.
yeah, now would probably not be the time to stop.
Yeah, it's hard, right? And even in my gut, it's not a solid like you should most definitely not apply this cycle and take more classes. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty like certain of it, even though I'm not 100%.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I had. Just sort of wanted to see where I'm at. Glad I got your input. It's very much valued. So yeah, I think, I will potentially take some extra classes then and work my way through everything from there, I guess.
All right. Well, good luck. Whatever you choose to do, listen to me, not listen to me. I don't care. Do what you feel is right, and good luck to you.